Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about 3 communication resolutions. Now, this episode will be the first episode released in the new year of 2020. So this time of year, we're reflecting on the past year, thinking about changes for the new one. It's one of the common thoughts on many people's minds. It's resolutions or goals for the new year. And I'm personally entering the new year coming off of 2 solid weeks with my grandchildren in my home, reflective time, not only with my grandchildren, but also the opportunity to spend time with my adult children and with my parents. So I've had the opportunity over the last 2 weeks to spend lots of time with 4 generations of people, including, of course, myself and my wife. So lots and lots of focused time with family. I've taken time away from work, spent very minimal time reflecting on professional issues, only those issues that were really super pressing and had to be dealt with in the moment. So pretty much I've spent time with family over the last 2 weeks. And one of the things I've noticed in spending time with grandchildren, if you've ever been around young children, you may have this experience. My grandchildren happen to be 5, almost 6, and 3, almost 4. So they're at that age where they are highly communicative, and their communication skills aren't super developed. They're not adult level, although they do have highly developed facial expressions and tone, and actually pretty good vocabulary. So if you've ever spent time with a small child, you know that a small child is in many ways a mirror to you of your communication style. They don't have many of the filters that adults have, or older children who are entering teen years. They show their hurts or their frustrations or their joys very clearly on their face. You hear it in their tone. You hear it in the things they ask of you. And so being around my grandchildren has really forced me to think a great deal about my own personal communication style and the way I interact with other people. I've had a chance to be around my adult children, so I've had some conversations, been able to learn more perspective. You're always learning in your interactions with other people. Learn what some of their memories are from earlier in their life, those kind of things. And then to spend time with my parents and see how my interaction with them is affected by our past history and those kind of things. No, there are no problems here. Everything was enjoyable and fun, and it's awesome 2 weeks. I'm just saying that the opportunity to interact with people of different relationship histories, different ages, has allowed me to pay a great deal of attention to how my communication is perceived, heard, understood, and remembered by others. And with that in mind, it has led me to 3 things that I want to be very mindful of in the new year. So I just share them with you, and hopefully they will help you also as you go into this new year and endeavor to become a more effective, more clear, and more influential leader in terms of how your communication affects your leadership skill, your influence with others. So quickly, here are the 3 resolutions, then I'll expand on them a bit. One resolution I suggest you keep is to remember to be present in your communications, and to be forgiving in your communications, and to be gracious in your communications. And what does all that mean? Well, to be present really means to be in the moment, to be paying attention to what you say, be paying attention to how other people are receiving what you say. So many leadership communication issues become a problem when we're not present. We say the offhand comment, we miss the body language of the other person, we miss the facial expression they make when we say something. And the thing that we say that is not intended to be negative or hurtful or critical is heard that way. Or a person is sharing their perspective with you, and because you're distracted, you're thinking about something else. You're not present in the moment. You might miss important information that they share with you. You mishear it or don't hear it at all, and you completely miss the message they're trying to convey. And as a result, they might communicate that you're not listening. You might do something that hurts the relationship because of how they perceive you're perceiving them. It's kind of a complicated thing. I was reminded of this as I was interacting with my grandchildren, and things happen when you're an adult in a household and there are small children around. You are involved in cooking a meal or cleaning up the dishes or straightening up the living room or any number of other typical household tasks. It's easy to forget that when that small child, let's not say small child, when that person, be they a small child or adult, is attempting to convey something to you that is vitally important to them. And because you're distracted by a task or focusing on something else and not paying the proper attention, let's say either not paying the proper attention or not letting the other person know that you can't receive it right now and you'll need a minute to clear your head or clear the space so that you can pay attention. In effect, you pretend to pay attention. You convey to the other person that you don't really care about what they say. I had a few of those moments with my granddaughter and grandson where I thought I was present, and clearly I wasn't present enough. And then I could see in their face that they felt hurt a little bit or disappointed, or I did something that wasn't what they asked me to do because I made a bunch of assumptions. Now, that whole idea applies when we're interacting with adults and coworkers and colleagues. I'm not suggesting that you have to be intently focused on other people at all times and never take care of your own work. I'm just saying that wherever you are, be there. So if you really need to focus on your work right now because it's something that you need the mental space to focus on to complete properly and completely, then let the other person know that you're not in a frame of mind or space to hear what they have to say. Just let them know. And if you are listening, then be listening and don't be doing something else at the same time. So resolution number 1, be present. Second resolution is to be forgiving. And this is related to how you receive, perceive, and handle the things people tell you. There are many opportunities for people to say things in a way that we don't hear the way they intend them, that are intended as negative or hurtful or personal as maybe we perceive them. So a resolution for this year would be to be forgiving. Cut people some slack. I've talked about the idea of presumption of benign intent at least one time, I think maybe 2 or 3 times in my podcast history. And that's basically what this is. Be forgiving. Make allowance and room for other people's humanity also. So be present and be forgiving. And then the third resolution I would say for this year is more about how you give communication. And that would be gracious. I saw this definition as I was thinking about this podcast and trying to wrap my head clearly around the definition of the words forgiving and gracious and how they're different. And I saw this, I think this comes from Psychology Today based on the little snippet I see in my Google browser. It says that gracious people are kind and their behavior is characterized by tact. Graciousness may be superficial, but sometimes what is on the surface is good enough. A gracious person is a graceful person, someone who at least attempts to not hurt others' feelings with clumsy words or thoughtless deeds. So the idea I'm going to suggest for this year, this resolution to be gracious, is to be aware of how your words, deeds, tone, body language affects other people. Do we convey the idea that we are kind and tactful? Do we convey the idea that we really care about what other people say and do and feel and perceive? Again, I'm not suggesting that you subjugate your thoughts and feelings to everyone else, that you always come second. Not my point at all. My point is to at least consider how the way you communicate your thoughts, feelings, perspectives, ideas, concepts, requests, at least considers how it might be received by the other person so that you offer it in a way that is not hurtful, not clumsy, not thoughtless. I'm reminded by a quote that I believe comes from Sir Isaac Newton, and if not, it's still a good phrase. Tact is the art of making a point without making an enemy. It's being gracious. So the things I'd like to remind you of this year as we're starting the new year and you're thinking about how you move forward in this new year and become a more effective leadership communicator, how you learn to talk like a leader, I'm going to invite you to join me in 3 communication resolutions. Be present, be forgiving, be gracious. If you can master those 3 acts, those 3 things, so many other things will fall in line and you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.